The purpose of this video is to create awareness around Ban the Box and fair chance policies. The stories you will hear are real. Names have been changed and actors have been used to protect the identities of those willing to share their deeply personal experiences.
When I was 18, I was convicted of aggravated assault when I attempted to defend myself in a fight. This unfortunately puts me in the category of a violent offender. I spent 18 months in prison. I was able to find work in my home community when I was released because people knew me. No one really asked about my record. When I moved across the country, it was a different story. One company kept me on the line for 4 weeks before deciding, I don't think you'll work out here. How do they know if they don't give me a chance? I put in an application at one of the big box stores and they really wanted to hire me. But once they did a background check, I got a nice little letter in the mail saying, no thank you. Same thing with a manager at a major grocery store in the area. I was completely honest with him about my background and he was equally apologetic. However, he told me he'd love to hire me and give me a chance, but he said he could make the final decision. He said he was sorry, and all he could tell me was some people have their hands tied at the limitations of company policy. So the next several times I just lied about my record. I got some work with a temp agency, but that's not steady. The hardest thing about having a record is having to explain your history to complete strangers. They have no idea how humiliating it can be when you know they're not going to hire you in the end. I feel like I'm judged entirely on that box. It's like my experience, knowledge, and education doesn't even matter. Some guys I've temped for have told me what a great worker I am. I do have a strong work ethic, I just don't get a chance to show it. Meanwhile, companies hire these kids who text on their phones when they're supposed to be working. I'm not a bad guy, and I shouldn't have to keep paying for a mistake I made over 10 years ago. I can't imagine trying to support a family this way. There are a lot of good, hardworking people out there who just made a mistake and want to get past it and lead a normal life. That little box makes it next to impossible for so many of us.
I was 28 when I was incarcerated and served 5 years. I was a high school graduate at the time, but since my release, I've gotten my associate's degree, and next year I'll be completing my bachelor's degree. I was able to take advantage of a type of loophole in the system. When I was released, I used a relative's address in another state as my own, and this allowed me to avoid probation in my own state. That way I applied for several jobs after my release, and I always answered no on that question on the application about having a felony. And because I was using my relative's address as my own, the background checks came up clean in that state. I'm sure I wouldn't have been hired for those jobs if I was found out to be a felon. It's taken me several years to find a job that I enjoy, where I actually feel like I have a future. You know, it makes me sad to think of all the people who could do a lot of good if they were just given a second chance. I mean, I understand why they're background checks. You don't want to put a drug addict in a pharmacy, and you don't want a sex offender in a school, but it goes too far. It puts people who want to do good and be productive members of society in a bad place. The only job they can get will be nothing that'll let them realize their potential. They're going to get, they're going to feel depressed and feel trapped, and then there probably a lot of pressure on them to reoffend. Who knows where I'll be today if I didn't get that second chance? It's scary to think about.
I was in my 30s when I was incarcerated on felony drug charges. I've always been a hard worker. One phone call to my old employer shortly after I was released, and I had my old job back, driving truck. In my case, my past work history and strong work ethic superseded my conviction. The box wasn't an issue for me. I believe that the strong relationship I had with my employer was the reason that I was hired back without a second thought. My employer knew my crime and was more than willing to have me back on the team. I was very lucky and grateful for that. The box is critical in my mind for one important reason. It's to keep certain populations of people out of specific jobs that could be harmful to others and to the community. The best advice I have to pass on is to try your best not to get into the system in the first place. It's easier said than done, I'm afraid.
I was 42 when I was sentenced to 20 years. I had a high school education and 2 years of community college. I also served in the Air Force during Vietnam. In my many job interviews after release, I can truthfully say that I lied on most applications, even while still being on parole. My crime was for murder, and my chances of employment were slim to none. A really good job that I did get at a furniture manufacturer came only after a year doing the heavy, back-breaking work that most folks didn't want or would not do for love or money. This including hauling rocks out of a stream and painting siding. I finally got the manufacturing job and worked my way up. I did lie about my record on that application. It weighed heavily on me, and eventually I did tell the owner the truth, and he said because I had come to him first and was a good worker, I could continue to work there. I remember he looked at me and said, "Get back to work." And I said, "Thank you, Lord." It helped that the Department of Corrections allowed me to earn money in making and selling leather crafts while I was incarcerated. When I was released, I had a bag of clothes and $200 in my pocket. Volunteers from a local church took me out to eat and to Walmart, where they bought me clothes and necessities. They also gave me food for the bus ride home. It was hard to take, but their help was so valuable. I give my mom and dad credit for taking the risk of giving me a room, food, and transportation I needed before I bought a used Subaru. It's been some time since my release, and for those finding themselves re-entering the community and workforce now, I do know it would help to have a valid driver's license and a few letters of reference. I do feel a box could be changed. It would help some if it read, "Have you ever been convicted of a felony in the last 2 years?"
When we talked to the work readiness program facilitators at a local restorative justice center, they told us that the barriers for this population far exceed anything else. There are only a small number of jobs that they can apply for, and they're totally excluded and discriminated against in career jobs. The available jobs are typically minimum wage. Many of these people don't have housing, and they can't even get subsidized housing or even money for further education or training because their records exclude them from accessing government assistance. So many talented individuals end up re-incarcerated. They feel that we need to help them find something that they don't want to lose. We know an educated person is far less likely to offend. We need employers who are willing to collaborate. Some want to, but in many cases they can't because hiring policies are corporate. Really good people make bad decisions, but they don't have to pay for it for the rest of their lives. In fact, we're all just one bad choice from being in their situation ourselves. This civil rights movement is gaining traction. Fair chance policies are being passed all over the country and beyond. We hope you will add your voice to the conversation.